Dad, you don't have to keep showing up everywhere. Michael's voice carried over the music. Too clear, too final. Laughter died. Forks paused midair. I was standing there with a box in my hands, the one I'd spent a week restoring. A dozen faces turned toward me, polite smiles fading. Maybe it's time you let us live our own life, he added, glancing at Maya, then back at me. You've done enough. The words hung there like exhaust in cold air. Thick, visible, impossible to ignore. I stared at my son, searching for the boy who once sat on my toolbox swinging his legs. All I saw was a stranger in a crisp shirt, already looking past me. No one spoke. The band stopped halfway through a song. Someone coughed. Somewhere behind me, Maya whispered, "Let's cut the cake." I swallowed hard, the box still pressed against my chest. That was the moment everything shifted. 1 second I was a father. The next, I was an inconvenience. Just an old wrench set I'd restored, handles buffed, hinges oiled, but it carried 30 years of Saturdays and busted knuckles. Michael used to hand me the sockets when he was barely tall enough to see over the fender. Now he had a mortgage, a wife, and a house big enough to echo. I'd parked outside earlier, staring at that house like it was the finish line I'd built for him. Cars lined the driveway, all new, polished bright under the porch lights. Music thumped from inside. Laughter spilled out with the smell of catered barbecue and perfume. Not oil or pine cleaner like home. I killed my truck's engine, wiped my hands on my jeans out of habit, and looked at the box beside me on the seat. A gift from a mechanic to his son, a reminder of where we started. Inside, the place gleamed. Granite counters, glass fixtures, candles that smelled too sweet. People I barely recognized shook my hand with that distant politeness you give someone who belongs to a different decade. Maya floated through the room in a cream dress, smiling for everyone but me. Didn't matter, I told myself. It was Michael's night, his birthday and housewarming rolled together. He'd made it. That's what I kept saying. I spotted him near the kitchen island, surrounded by friends from the bank. He looked successful, comfortable, too comfortable. When he saw me, his smile flickered, then he forced it back. "Dad, you made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, lifting the box. "Got something for you." He blinked, curiosity fading as Maya touched his arm. A glass clinked, the music quieted. "Ray's got a few words," Maya announced, still smiling. I hadn't planned a speech. Never was good with words unless they came with a wrench attached. But standing there, looking at my boy, I felt every year between us. I just wanted to say I'm proud," I began. "When your mom passed, I promised her I'd give you every chance we never had. There were weeks I didn't know how to keep the lights on at the shop. Sold my old Ford once to cover your books. But every bit of it was worth it, seeing you build this life." A few polite smiles. Michael shifted, uneasy. I opened the box, showing the polished tools resting on velvet. "These were the first set you ever used with me. Thought you might like to keep them. For luck." Silence stretched. Then came the coughs, the shuffling. Michael's friend muttered something about vintage. My son's face tightened. He cleared his throat, eyes flicking to Maya, then to the crowd. "Dad," he said too loud, "I really appreciate everything you've done. But you don't have to keep doing these gestures. You've worked hard your whole life. Maybe it's time you just relax. Let us live our own lives." Nervous laughter rippled. Maya didn't laugh. She folded her arms. "I wasn't trying to run your life, son," I said softly. "Just proud, that's all." "I know," he said quickly, glancing at everyone watching. "Maybe it's better if we take a little space. You've done your part." Done my part. Like I was a project finally finished. I nodded once. "Guess I'll get out of your way then." Someone offered me a drink. I waved it off. Music swelled again, louder, trying to bury the moment. I walked through the crowd, each step heavier than the last. Nobody met my eyes. Outside, the air bit cold and sharp. I sat behind the wheel of my truck, the gift box still in my hands. Through the window, I saw Michael laughing again, already back in conversation. My mind drifted backward, through the years of grease and grit. The first winter after his mother died, when the furnace broke and I worked nights fixing other people's cars to buy him a coat. The high school graduation where he hugged me so tight I thought nothing could ever break us. The tuition checks written with hands so cracked I could barely hold the pen. All of it had led here, to a driveway full of strangers and a son who wanted me gone. I started the engine. The headlights cut across the lawn, bright and cold. The wrench set sat on the passenger seat, glinting faintly in the glow. I thought about leaving it on the porch, but something in me couldn't. You don't hand your heart to someone who's done with you. You keep it. The road home was empty, just the hum of tires and the low growl of the engine. I'd rebuilt that motor myself. It still ran smoother than most new ones. Funny how machines respect the hands that build them. People don't always. By the time I reached the edge of town, the anger started to rise, slow and steady, like oil pressure in a line you've ignored too long. I'd spent a lifetime fixing what was broken, making things run right. But this was different. You can't tighten a bolt on a relationship that's already stripped. I parked behind the shop and sat there until the dash clock blinked past midnight. The quiet pressed close. A train horn moaned somewhere beyond the hills. I thought about those words again. Done your part. Like love came with an expiration date. In the dark, the box gleamed faintly. I reached over, touched the cold metal. The tools were perfect, balanced, clean, ready. I taught Michael how to handle them right. Firm grip, steady pressure, never force what won't move. Now, sitting there, I realized those lessons weren't just for engines anymore. You fix what's broken. That's what I've done my whole life. But some things don't need fixing. They need rebuilding from the ground up. I turned off the ignition and listened to the metal cool. The night felt heavy, but under it something small began to hum. A low, steady sound, like an engine ready for work. That Monday the shop felt different. Quieter, like it knew something I didn't yet. Same oil stains, same hum of the old radio stuck on country static, but the air carried a weight that didn't belong. I tightened a bolt on a Chevy's alternator, but my hands were somewhere else, still holding that wrench set I never got to give. When you've worked machines your whole life, you learn to listen. They warn you before they break. A rattle, a tremor, a tone that's off by half a note. People do the same. Michael's voice at the party had that tone. I just hadn't heard it soon enough. The day rolled slow. A brake job, a carburetor, a neighbor's mower that coughed twice before dying for good. By closing time, the air in the garage hung heavy with dust and quiet thoughts I didn't want. The answering machine blinked red. 3 messages, parts delivery, bank reminder, and one from Michael. I hit play. Hey, Dad. Look, about the party. A pause long enough to hear him breathing. You know Maya just gets protective. I didn't mean to embarrass you. We'll talk soon. Click. No apology. No warmth. Just a patch. Enough to keep the line from snapping completely. I knew the sound of a temporary fix. I'd made plenty. That night, I sat on the porch with a mug of coffee gone cold. The street was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear everything you've been ignoring. A storm rolled in from the west, slow and sure. The kind that doesn't shout, just moves steady until it's right on top of you. By Friday, I tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. Saturday, same thing. Sunday, I drove by their place. Their new mailbox gleamed like a trophy. A brass plate underneath read, Donovan Financial Consulting. So, they were starting a business. He hadn't mentioned that. Through the window, I saw them at the table, papers spread out like blueprints. Maya talking fast, Michael rubbing his temples. Then she pushed a document toward him. He hesitated, pen hovering midair, eyes flicking toward the window like he felt something watching. Then he signed. I didn't know what it was, but I knew what it meant. Monday morning, a cream envelope waited on my desk. Their return address in neat, expensive print. Inside, a succession planning proposal from their lawyer. I read the first line twice, then stopped. They wanted me to sign over the shop. One signature, and I'd be a guest in my own business. The air went thin. I stared at the paper until the letters blurred. My heart beat slow, heavy, mechanical, the sound of something vital losing oil pressure. That evening, I drove to Tom's barber shop. Tom had seen it all, marriages, divorces, bankruptcies, all trimmed short by time. He poured us 2 coffees and read the letter. He didn't take long. Family rust spreads faster than road salt. Ray, he said finally. Sand it quick or it'll eat through everything. I folded the form, slipped it back into my jacket. I'm not letting it spread, I said. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. Invoices that used to come to the shop now had Maya Donovan, office coordinator, printed at the bottom. New accounts linked to Donovan Financial Consulting. Small details, easy to miss unless you'd spent a lifetime spotting leaks before they burst. One evening, I stayed late at the shop. The rain outside ticked against the roof, steady as a metronome. In the filing cabinet, I found a new folder labeled Transition Plan. Inside were drafts from a law firm 2 towns over. Each page bore my name, my life's work, waiting for my signature. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the windows. For a second, the lights flickered, just enough to make the shadows move. When they steadied, so did I. That was the night the anger cooled into focus. I drove home, brewed coffee thick enough to stand a spoon, and spread the papers across the table like an engine laid bare. Receipts, contracts, bank notices. Every move they'd made formed a pattern, like gears meshing toward an end I hadn't chosen. Maya was the driver. Michael? Just the wrench she was holding. By midnight, I knew what I needed to do. Not shout, not fight. Gather proof. Quietly. The same way you find a fault line in an engine block. Slow, patient, exact. The next morning, I walked into the bank with a calm face. Jill, the manager, smiled, then frowned at her screen. Ray, your account's been linked to a new LLC under Michael Donovan Enterprises. You approve that? No, I said. Her hand froze over the keyboard. I can freeze all new access for 10 days while you verify. Do it, I told her. When I walked out, the air felt cleaner. Not lighter, just honest. That night, sleep didn't come easy. The rain picked up again, drumming on the roof. I sat by the window, coffee in hand, watching the streetlight turn puddles into gold. I thought of Michael at 10 years old, asking how to tell when a bearing was worn. Listen for the whine, I told him. Feel for the grit. A machine always warns you before it breaks. Somewhere along the line, I stopped listening to the warning signs in him. Now I heard every one of them. The next day, I went to the hardware store. Not for parts. For a safe, small, solid, steel gray. When I got back, I bolted it under my desk using the same engraved wrench I'd meant to give Michael. Each turn of the bolt felt like sealing a promise. Inside the safe, I placed the originals, business license, tax records, the shop's deed, digital copies of invoices. Everything that proved Donovan Auto Service was mine, and always had been. As I tightened the last bolt, a single drop of rain slipped through a leak in the roof and splashed onto the concrete. It hissed on the space heater. Decay had already started creeping in, but I caught it. For now. Later that night, the phone buzzed. Michael's number. Hey, Dad, he said, voice cautious. Maya told me you got some papers in the mail. Don't stress, okay? They're just drafts for when you're ready to retire. Retire, I repeated. Yeah, you deserve it. We just want to make sure things don't get messy later. You'll still be part of it, of course. Course, I said flatly. He exhaled. Love you, Dad. Then the line went dead. Love you. Simple words, light as air, heavy as lead. I sat there staring at the phone. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence until a thunderclap broke it clean in half. The lights flickered again. Outside, the puddles rippled under the downpour. My eyes landed on the photos above the workbench. Michael at 6 holding a wrench too big for his hands. Michael at 16 fixing his first car. Michael in his graduation gown. Each picture told the same story. Pride built one bolt at a time. But even the strongest frame warps if the foundation rots underneath. And mine was already shifting. Tomorrow, I'd start gathering proof. Old invoices, bank slips, anything they'd tried to rewrite. Engines don't lie, and neither does paperwork. The storm outside was easing, the thunder moving on. But in my chest, something else had started up, slow, steady, ready. Like a motor warming after a long cold start. Morning came gray and hollow. Light, so weak it made you wonder if the sun had given up. I poured coffee, black as oil, watched the steam fade, and felt the same inside. The storm had washed the streets clean, but it hadn't done the same for me. Inside, everything still felt dirty. His voice still rang in my ears. You've done enough. My own son, saying that like I was a job finished, a story already told. Then I saw the safe under my desk, the one I'd bolted down last night with that engraved wrench. It sat there quiet, solid, waiting. Maybe that was my answer. You don't fix what someone's still breaking. You stop them first. By 8, I was in the shop. The air smelled of damp concrete and gasoline. One of the fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, flashing across the tool racks like a warning beacon. I switched it off. Didn't need light to do what I had in mind. Just focus. First job, paperwork. I dug out every receipt, every contract, every scrap of ink that tied Donovan Auto Service to my name. Half the files were yellowed and brittle, the ink fading, but they told a story clearer than memory. Then I opened the new folders, the ones Maya had been handling. Clean paper, expensive stock, modern fonts. And one thing I hadn't noticed before, her initials in tiny print on every footer. She'd been rewriting the business from the bottom up, paper by paper, line by line. Around noon, Tom stuck his head through the door. "Brought lunch," he said, holding up a paper bag. He looked at the piles spread across my bench. "Building an arc ray? Blueprint," I muttered. He frowned. "For what?" "Insurance," I said, not looking up. He sat across from me, unwrapping his sandwich. "You're going after them, huh?" "I'm protecting what's mine." He nodded slowly. "Rust spreads faster when you start scraping," he said. "Be sure what your savings worth the steal." I didn't answer. I was too busy scanning a recent invoice signed in pen that wasn't mine. My thumb ran over the signature. The ink still felt smooth, newer than it should have been. The signature looked close, same loop on the R, same slant on the D, but the pressure points were wrong. Whoever did it had traced a copy. It wasn't my hand. It was theirs. By 3 I'd confirmed 3 forged documents, supplier agreements, an updated insurance form, and a credit line adjustment with the bank. Maya's handwriting appeared in side notes, neat and deliberate. Each forged paper moved control away from me a little more. A slow theft done in daylight. That's when the anger cracked through the calm. I slammed my fist on the bench hard enough to rattle the socket sets. A wrench clattered to the floor, ringing like a bell in an empty church. I bent down, picked it up, and realized it was the same one I'd engraved for Michael. His initials caught the light. For a second my throat closed. All that work, all that care, and now his name was stamped on my pain. I needed advice, not sympathy. So I drove 2 towns over to see Ellen Reed, an accountant who'd helped me years back when the IRS thought I was running a second business out of the shop. She was smart, quiet, and allergic to drama. She studied the papers without a word. After 10 minutes, she set them down. "You never signed it," Ellen said. "That makes it fraud. Keep quiet, collect proof. Let them hang themselves lower." I asked what would happen if I did nothing. She met my eyes. "Within a year, you'd lose the shop. You'd still pay taxes on it, though. That's how they'd do it. Slow, polite, legal." The drive back felt longer than it should. The sun was going down, painting the sky the same orange as the shop's rusted sign. Every mile hummed like a reminder. I'd raised a son who could watch this happen. When I pulled into the yard, the first thing I saw was the sign flickering. Donovan Auto Service, since 1987. Half the bulbs were dead, the rest buzzing weak light. I stood there a long moment, listening to that buzz, thinking about how many times I'd replaced those bulbs myself. Sometimes things die slow, sometimes they burn out fast. Either way, you have to climb the ladder and fix them. Inside, I spread Ellen's notes beside mine and started drawing lines with a pencil, dates, accounts, signatures, arrows pointing from me to them. The page looked like an engine schematic by the time I finished. Every line connected to Maya somehow. Every pressure point, every valve, led back to her. It wasn't just greed. It was design. I drew one more arrow and wrote at the top, "Blueprint for payback." The words looked strange in my handwriting, colder, heavier, but right. Over the next few days, I lived 2 lives. By day, the shop ran as usual. Customers came and went, unaware that every receipt I handed over had a duplicate sliding quietly into a folder marked evidence. By night, I went through the digital backups, scanning every transaction. When I found a mismatch, I printed it and stored it in the safe. That engraved wrench lay beside the key, the same wrench I'd once given Michael. Now it guarded the proof of his betrayal. Each discovery hurt more than the last. Bank withdrawals under new signatures, supply orders billed to their LLC, even an insurance claim they'd filed after the storm, listing me as retired owner. Retired. Like I'd already left. Like I was dead. Thursday afternoon, as I was tightening a muffler clamp, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Maya. Her voice was smooth, practiced. "Ray, it's Maya. Just a heads up, we'll need your signature on a few updates this week. Nothing urgent, just standard stuff. Hope you're taking it easy." Taking it easy. The words slid under my skin. I played the message twice, then deleted it. That was the last time I'd let her voice fill my shop. That night, I pulled the safe open again and looked at the growing pile inside. My whole life compressed into folders and flash drives. The rain had started again outside, softer this time, steady against the tin roof. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel helpless. I felt ready. I looked at Linda's photo on the shelf, grease-stained frame, soft smile. She'd said once, "A good man fixes what he can and walks from what he can't." I wasn't sure which one this was yet. I wrote a list on the back of an envelope. Freeze accounts. Copy insurance forms. Contact Ellen. Verify forgery dates. Wait. Then, under that, I wrote one more line. Don't warn them. Because every good repair starts with diagnosis. You don't tell the machine what's wrong, you let it show you. Around midnight, I poured another cup of coffee and looked out the window toward town. Somewhere out there, my son was asleep beside the woman who'd turned him against me. Maybe he dreamed of new clients, new money, clean hands. Mine would never be clean again, but they'd be steady. I caught my reflection in the glass. Older, lined, eyes darker than I remembered. Linda would have hated seeing me like this. But Linda wasn't here, and I couldn't let her memory be stolen along with my name. Before bed, I walked back into the garage one last time. The flickering light had died completely. I left it that way. Instead, I switched on the small desk lamp over my workbench. Its glow hit the blueprint I'd drawn, lines, circles, arrows, all leading to one square labeled core. That square was the business license, the heart of everything, and I had the only original copy locked away. I placed my hand flat on the paper. The pencil marks smudged slightly under my skin. "All right," I whispered. "Let's see how good you are at building when the foundation's gone." Tomorrow, I'd take my evidence to Ellen, get notarized copies made, and maybe send one to a lawyer I knew from a car club friend upstate. Tomorrow, I'd start turning their design against them. Because they'd built this scheme like amateurs, flashy, confident, no idea that every false line left a fingerprint. Engines, lies, it's all the same. The weak parts always show first. The rain outside stopped as sudden as it had started. I stood in the doorway, breathing the clean smell of wet asphalt. For the first time since the party, I felt something like purpose. Not peace yet, that had come later. Just momentum. I turned off the light, locked the door, and whispered to the dark. "You wanted me gone. Let's see how quiet I can disappear when I'm the one cutting the power." The wrench slipped once, bit my knuckle, and drew a thin line of blood. Good. A reminder that tightening anything too fast will strip the thread. I leaned back under the hood, watching the fan belt turn slow and steady. Control. That's all it ever comes down to. You lose it one bolt at a time. Now I was taking it back. By noon I was at Ellen's office with a folder under my arm. Every page notarized, every timestamp printed. We didn't say much. She slid copies into her safe, locked it, and handed me a spare key. "Keep the originals dry," she said. "I keep everything dry," I told her. Next stop, the bank. The clerk knew me by name, still called me Mr. Donovan like it meant something. We froze the accounts, updated access codes, rerouted insurance payments straight to me. No fireworks, no confrontation. Just quiet paperwork and a firm signature. By the time I left, the air outside smelled like cut grass and diesel. Somewhere, a mower droned. Somewhere else, a false note choked out. Back at the shop, the phone rang twice before I answered. "Maya," she said brightly, that rehearsed warmth already grating. "Hey, Ray. Weird thing. The supplier says the business account's restricted. Just a mix-up, right?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "Probably the bank running updates," I said. "You know how they get." A pause. Too long. Then, soft and careful. "Right, of course. Thanks." She hung up first. For a moment, I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. The first loose bolt. The rest of the afternoon passed in grease and quiet thinking. Some parts only seize when you leave them untouched too long. Same goes for people. I changed the oil on Mrs. Henderson's pickup, patched a tire for a teenager who reminded me of Michael at 17, nervous, eager, trying to sound older. I even laughed once when he handed me too much cash and said, "Keep the change, sir." Sir. No one calls you that until they think you're fading. The safe waited in the corner, metal cold even through my gloves. Beside it sat the blueprint from last week, lines like a loaded map. That evening, headlights swept across the yard. Michael's truck. He killed the engine, sat there a full minute before getting out. Hands in pockets, shoulders tight. "Shop looks good," he said. "Same as always." "Yeah." We stood in that doorway silence men fall into when words are too small for what they've done. He looked so damn young standing there. I almost told him to come inside. Almost. He finally looked up. "Mom used to say you never threw anything away." I nodded. She was right. He kicked at the gravel. Maya said we had to streamline things. I thought. He stopped himself. I waited. He didn't finish. Streamline. I said quietly. That what they call cutting a man out of his own name now? He winced. Dad, it wasn't supposed to go like this. Maybe you should have checked the manual before you started taking it apart. That landed. He stepped back, jaw tight. I just wanted things easier. Easier never fixed anything worth keeping. He didn't answer. After a moment he turned, walked to his truck, and drove off slow. No goodbye, just taillights fading into dusk. My knuckles still stung. Some lessons you keep under the skin. The phone rang again an hour later. Ellen, they're moving faster than I expected, she said. New filings, new account numbers. They're spooked. Good, I said. Means they're looking the wrong way. She sighed before hanging up. Ray, just be careful. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. The first drops hit the tin roof, soft and steady, like someone testing the rhythm before the storm begins. I closed up the shop late. Lock after lock clicked into place, metal against metal, final and clean. Then I drove. No destination, just asphalt and thought. The town lights thinned, turned to open dark. When I passed the new subdivision, I saw it. Michael's house, all glass and angles, porch light glowing gold. A house built on borrowed beams, already starting to bend. Two silhouettes moved inside, him and Maya. Even from the road, I could tell they were arguing. Her hands sharp, his shoulders sagging. A family built on false lines, and the frame was starting to hum. I parked under a tree, engine off, and watched a while. Didn't feel pride, didn't feel pity. Just quiet certainty. Every frame hums before it cracks. The rain started again, harder this time. I cracked the window, let the smell of wet earth fill the cab. Somewhere deep in the truck, a belt squealed against damp metal. Pressure building. I thought about the shop, about the safe, about the blueprint on my bench. When pressure builds in the wrong line, something's bound to blow. The rain hit harder, hiding the sound of my engine starting. Morning came with a low hum in the air, like the town itself was holding its breath. The rain had washed everything clean again. Dirt doesn't disappear. It just hides deeper. Ellen had left a message on my phone the night before. Short. Call me first thing. So I did. She answered on the second ring, voice tight. They're moving fast, Ray. I checked the filings. Maya pushed a full transfer request through the bank yesterday. She used a scanned signature. How long before it clears? 2, maybe 3 days. Unless you block it now. I asked how. Freeze your accounts. And, Ray, she hesitated. Don't go there angry. I'll go there steady, I said. I hung up, grabbed my jacket, and drove through the wet streets toward the shop. The puddles reflected the neon sign like it was bleeding light into the asphalt. The same sign I'd fixed 100 times, buzzing through every night shift of my life. When I got there, the office door was unlocked. Inside, the smell hit me first, new perfume mixed with rain-soaked dust. Maya stood by the counter, papers spread like cards in a poker game. Michael was behind her, shoulders tight, jaw locked. A third man, the banker, looked up when I walked in, his expression already defensive. Morning, I said. My voice sounded calm. That worried even me. Maya smiled, that same polished smile I'd seen at the party. Ray, we were just finalizing some paperwork. You'll be pleased. The transition's almost seamless. Transition, I repeated, setting my keys down on the counter. She kept going. Michael will handle day-to-day operations now. You'll still have a role, of course, honorary founder. Honorary. That word stung worse than old. I stepped closer. Funny, I said. I don't remember signing anything that says I'm done. She blinked, still composed. We can handle the formalities later. Her hand reached for one of the papers. I placed my palm on top of it. Don't, I said quietly. Her jaw twitched, but she kept her tone measured. This doesn't have to get ugly, Ray. But her voice trembled halfway through, like she already knew it was too late. Michael shifted uncomfortably. Dad, maybe we should just. I turned to him. Should just what? He looked away. She said you'd already signed everything. She said it was what you wanted. He looked back at me then, like a man finally checking the gauge he'd ignored too long. I wanted my son to have a future, I said. Not to bury mine. The banker coughed, mumbling something about rescheduling. Maya shot him a look that froze him in place. I opened the folder and slid out one of the forged pages. See this? I said, holding it up. My signature. Only problem, it's not mine. Maya's face hardened. You can't prove. I can, I interrupted. I laid another document beside it. The notarized copy Ellen helped me prepare. Different ink, different pressure, different pen. Ellen verified the timestamps. So before this conversation goes any further, you might want to call your lawyer. Silence. Only the rain tapping on the windows and the buzz of that dying light overhead. Then Michael spoke. Is it true? She didn't answer. Is it? He demanded. Her shoulders dropped. I did what needed to be done, she whispered. You wouldn't have had anything if I didn't push. Her eyes glossed over, part rage, part panic. I built this, Michael. Not him. I made you more than a grease-stained shop boy. He took a step back, like the words themselves smelled rotten. You build it on lies, he said softly. She turned on him. I did it for us. But he was already shaking his head. The banker quietly gathered his folder and slipped out. The sound of the door clicking shut was louder than it should have been. Maya looked back at me, her mask on now. You won't win, she said. I nodded slowly. I already have. For a second, no one moved. The light flickered once, twice, then went out completely, leaving us in half shadow. Michael's breath came rough. He looked so damn young standing there. I almost told him to come inside. Almost. Instead, I reached into my jacket and handed him the engraved wrench. Keep it, I said. You'll need it when things start coming apart. He stared at it, then at me. Dad, I'm sorry. I know. He left a minute later. Maya didn't. She stood still, staring at the blueprint I'd left on the desk, the one marked blueprint for payback. When I walked out, she was still staring. Outside, the air smelled of wet metal and cut grass. Somewhere, a mower droned. Somewhere else, a false note choked out. A house built on borrowed beams, already starting to bend. I drove home without the radio on. The quiet felt earned this time. In the office window, Linda's photo still sat where it always had. Still standing, I murmured. The rain softened to a steady hiss. I switched off the lights, locked the door, and stood for a moment on the threshold. Every frame hums before it cracks. Pressure's off. Time to see what still holds. I stepped into the rain. The drops hit harder, hiding the sound of my engine starting. The morning after it all came down, the shop felt hollow. No voices, no buzz from the light. Just that silence storms leave behind when even the air's tired. I poured myself coffee and sat on the edge of the workbench. Didn't taste right. Nothing does after truth hits the floor that hard. Half the town knew by noon. Small towns carry news faster than oil leaks through old concrete. By evening, I'd gotten 3 calls. 2 from clients checking if I was still open, and 1 from Tom saying, heard Maya left town. Good riddance. I didn't answer any of them. Not because I was angry, because I was empty. Michael didn't show up that day, or the next. Didn't expect him to. Some messes can't be fixed with a wrench or an apology, only time and silence. So I cleaned. Not because the shop was dirty, because I needed order. Wiped down every tool, sorted every socket, even polished the old wrench with his initials on it. I thought about throwing it out once, but then I figured some scars should stay visible. 2 days later, Ellen called. The filing's cleared, she said. Your name's safe. Banks freezing their accounts pending investigation. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. She paused. You okay, Ray? Getting there. You sound calm. Guess that's what happens when pressure finally bleeds off, I said. The quiet after control comes back. It's heavier than the fight ever was. After that, I went back to work. Not for the money, just to feel something real. The first car that rolled in was an old Chevy with a bad starter. Belonged to a farmer from out past the ridge. He handed me the keys and said, heard you had some trouble. Glad you're still here. I just nodded. Didn't want sympathy. But when that engine finally turned over under my hands, the sound, it meant something. It meant I wasn't done. Nights came easier after that. I stopped looking at the phone every time it buzzed. Stopped expecting an apology that might never come. Because sometimes surviving is the apology. Then, a week later, Michael showed up. The bell over the door rang, and there he was, same shoulders, different eyes. I was under a pickup, oil dripping into a pan. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, holding a box. When I slid out, he looked smaller somehow. You left some stuff at the house, he said. He set the box on the counter. Inside were some of Linda's old photos, a pocket knife, and a half-finished wood carving I'd made for her years ago. Didn't think you'd want it, he said quietly. I wiped my hands and looked at him. She would have, I said. He nodded, eyes red. I didn't know about all of it, Dad. Not until after. She told me you'd retired, that you were done, that you wanted me to take over. His voice cracked. I wanted to believe her. I didn't have anger left. Just a deep kind of tired. I know, I said. You thought you were helping. He nodded. She's gone. Moved back to Chicago. Left me the bills. That's the thing about running from wreckage, I said. You always end up dragging pieces with you. He gave a small, broken laugh. I don't expect you to forgive me. I already did, I said. Then what now? I looked around the shop. Now? We rebuild. Slow. Careful. He stayed that afternoon. Didn't talk much. Just helped me rotate tires and clean out the drain. When he left, he looked lighter. And for the first time in months, so did I. That night, I sat outside the shop watching the sun drop behind the ridge. The air smelled like hot metal cooling off. Peaceful. Earned. I looked over at Linda's picture in the window and smiled. Still standing, I whispered. Funny how some things break just to prove they can be fixed. The town moved on, like it always does. Folks came in for oil changes, brake jobs, little things. Every now and then someone would mention Maya. Rumors, half-truths, nothing that mattered. I'd just nod, keep my hands moving, keep the rhythm. Because a good mechanic knows, once you find the real fault, the rest is just patience. I don't work as fast as I used to. My hands shake some mornings. But the engines still trust me. And the quiet between the jobs doesn't scare me anymore. I keep the blueprint in the drawer now. Creased, faded, still there. A reminder of how close I came to losing everything. And how much of it I got back. Before locking up that night, I turned off the main light, leaving only the small desk lamp glowing over the bench. The wrench with Michael's initials caught the light again, same as the night I bolted that safe down. Only this time, it didn't hurt to look at it. Outside, the air hummed with crickets and distance. The sign above the door flickered once, then steadied. Not bright, just steady. That's enough. The first snow came early that year, just a thin white dust softening the sound of passing cars. Winter air doesn't wait to settle. It claims everything in silence. I was checking the heater in the back office when the mail truck stopped outside. The driver waved through the window and held up a small brown envelope. No return address, just my name, written in Michael's handwriting. For a moment I didn't move. Some words, once read, can't be unread. But I'd spent too many years avoiding things that hurt. The paper smelled faintly of oil and winter air when I tore it open. Inside was a folded letter and something small wrapped in cloth. I opened the letter first. Dad, it took me a while to write this because I didn't know how to start. I've been fixing what I can, selling what's left, paying what I owe. The house feels too big now and too quiet. Guess that's how guilt echoes. It doesn't fade, just finds new walls. You were right about wreckage. It follows you. I think about Mom a lot. How she'd wipe her hands on your shirt when she helped in the shop, laughing even when you pretended to be mad. I miss that sound. I miss both of you. Maya reached out once. I didn't answer. There's nothing left to say there. I don't know what to call this. Apology, confession, maybe both. I just want you to know I'm learning. I found work at a garage outside Madison. Small place. Honest folks. Smells like oil and coffee. They don't know my name's Donovan, and I'm fine with that. You always said engines don't lie. I get that now. I want to build things again that last longer than mistakes. The thing wrapped in the cloth, it's yours. You gave it to me once when I didn't deserve it. Maybe now I'm ready to carry it right. Michael. I set the letter down and unwrapped the cloth. Inside was the engraved wrench. The steel had darkened from use, but the initials still caught the light. MD. The heater clicked on and off behind me, steady as breath. Outside, snow whispered against the window. I turned the wrench over in my hand, feeling the weight settle back where it belonged. That night, I drove out to the ridge road. The sky was clear, stars sharp as rivets. I pulled over near the old maple where Linda and I used to sit in the summers. The branches were bare now, but the shape was the same, strong, quiet, still standing. Love turns into duty, duty into habit, until one day you realize you've been carrying both alone. Maybe that's what he's learning now, one wrench at a time. I thought about Michael out there somewhere, turning bolts in another shop, maybe humming along to the same station that drifts in from the next county. Maybe he looks up sometimes and thinks of me the same way I think of him. Not with anger, not with guilt, just with the tired hope that time knows how to fix what we can't. I stayed there until the cold crept through my jacket. When I finally got back in the truck, I laid the wrench on the seat beside me. Didn't feel like a weapon anymore. Felt like an heirloom. Back at the shop, I hung it on the pegboard above the bench, right where Linda's photo sits in its frame. The lamp glowed soft against both. Still standing, I whispered. This time it didn't feel like defiance. It felt like peace. Outside, the sign flickered. Half the bulb still dead, the rest steady as heartbeat. Not bright, just steady. That's enough. Funny thing, machines and people aren't so different after all. Both just need someone willing to put in the time.